everyone, and welcome back to the Athlete to Athlete podcast. Today, I'm here with my dad. His name is Brendan, and he is my dad. And also, he used to play soccer growing up and was on the Ohio State soccer team. So that's kind of what we're going to talk with him about. Dad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I think I've broken the one rule Mom has for me not to talk on TV.
Yes.
So maybe this is YouTube, so it won't be
Yeah,
so
it doesn't
bad.
count. It doesn't count. So, Dad, can you give us a little timeline of your soccer career?
Oh boy. Well, I started playing when I was in elementary school, probably around fourth grade. We were on the I can't remember the name of that very first team. It was the Tornadoes.
Oh, okay.
I was on the Canton Tornadoes, and I was playing soccer because Nana wouldn't let me play football. I was terrible at baseball. I played basketball a little bit, but
Okay.
it didn't really fit. I mean, I liked playing, but it wasn't my thing. So I started playing there, and then they had a tryout team, which is like just a travel team, and it was out of Canton. And so I said, well, I'll try out. Nana took me down there and tried out for the team, and I was a big kid, right? So I grew faster than most people, and so I was bigger than everybody. And I remember just running. We had to do warm-up laps and sprints and stuff, and I beat everybody, and so made the team, and from there it was originally it was Uncle Scotty's dad, Roy, who was the coach, as well as another coach, Mr. Cispino. Side story: when I broke my neck
Yes.
in the hospital, Mr. Cispino's wife, Mrs. Cispino, was the nurse that
No
took
way.
it. So like she came out to get me, and she looked at the name, and she was like, Brendan, but anyway, so that's kind of what started out the travel, and we were the Canton Cougars, and we went and we won a state tournament in 1985. So I was 11. We won back-to-back state titles, and the first year we were young, and they didn't have like a regional after that, so it was just states, and then you were done. And then after that, we had a couple state titles that we won, like 4 or 5, and but after that first title, we got a new coach who was from Indianapolis, and he had played soccer when he was in college, and his name was John Boots, and he came in and started coaching us. The other guys were dads, and so he was like kind of a real coach,
Yeah.
that we all got excited about and everything. And so when he came on board, we started to win more, and so then our team started to travel more. We go to regionals and win those and stuff. And the name of the team started to grow. That we didn't really have a club; it was just a team.
Yeah.
We were an independent team, and we started to win. But we started to draw in kids from different parts of the area, Detroit metro area, and stuff like that. And then there became a time when the coach Boots was trying to decide whether or not we were going to get really serious about it or not.
Yeah.
And he formed a team, an indoor team. It was called Metro Magic, and that indoor team, I originally wasn't picked to be on it, and I had to meet with him and Nana and Papa, and he said, "Well, you'd have to do this, and be more serious. Take all this stuff." I said, "I will." And so then that team went and played indoor, and that kind of started the shift from kind of an independent travel team to a more serious club team. At that same time, we were all doing Olympic development. So you would, and back then it was the Olympic development stuff was your avenue or your path to get onto national teams and stuff like that, right? Because they didn't have as many clubs and big tournaments and stuff like that as they do now. And So I made the Michigan State team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but the thing that was difficult was it was so they did it by um, calendar year, or I'm not sure how they did it, but I ended up being on the age group younger
Oh, okay.
than most of the kids on my club team. So
Yeah.
like Uncle Scotty and those guys, and they were all on the older team, and I ended up being on the younger team.
Mm-hmm.
So um, so anyway, I joined that and did that at the same time we were doing the club, and then um, my my club coach Boots took the job at a private school, Catholic Central. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, we were in um, Redford, not the bougie one over here. And so he and I was a freshman. I just started at Plymouth Salem, and so I played there, mostly on the JV, and then got brought up to the varsity team at the end. But when he took the job, you in high school in Michigan, you got to transfer and spend half a year. Like if you were going to back then, you had to be at the school you were at for at least a semester before you could play a sport.
Okay.
Okay, so halfway through freshman year, um, my friend Carrie had already said, "Well, I'm going to go to CC." And I thought, well, that'd be pretty cool to go do too. And so I talked to Nana and Papa. I said, oh, I want to go to CC, but it costs money and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Papa going to UAD, he was like, well, okay. And so I applied, and basically, you had to go in and meet with the priests and all this stuff to go halfway through. But got into CC, and then it was tough when I first got in there because I didn't really know anybody,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have an opportunity to play a sport until the next year,
Yeah.
right? So I was just concentrating on the club sports and doing that stuff. Um, and so in during that time, I had also made the regional team.
Mm.
So they would have the state teams, the regional teams, and then the national pool teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had made the regional team, and that regional team was going to tour Europe through Germany, Austria, and
Mm.
Italy for a couple weeks, right? For just friendly play and that kind of stuff. So Papa, being of course, always involved and taking charge and everything. So um, Mr. Larner, Roy, and him and Coach Boots, they said, well, we should go to Europe as a club team.
Mm.
So basically, Papa got a hold of the regional team people and got all the information, all the itinerary from their trip, right?
Uh-huh.
Booked a trip. So I ended up being over there for a month because the club team went over for 2 weeks. And then, literally, at the airport, my club team's leaving, and the regional team was getting off the plane from the U.S.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
just walked over and met with them. But had great experiences with both those teams. The with the club team, it was more, it was a little bit more fun because it was my friends and
Yeah.
got to screw around and get in trouble. We won't get into all those issues but stuff, but it was a lot more fun. And then with the regional team, still very fun, but it was a little bit more serious. You were
Yeah.
trying to do things. The coach for the University of Wisconsin when I was in college was the regional coach
Mm. Okay.
for for that team. I can't remember his name right now. So I did that. Came home, and there was some politics that were at play with the Olympic development team and my coach and some different stuff. And basically, we kind of had to sit down, and he was like, I really think people should concentrate on the club team rather than the Olympic team and stuff like that. And so,
Mm.
it was mostly, I think, geared towards the people that were in the age group older than me. But regardless, we wanted to focus on that on our club team. So, in 1990, won the state, won the region, we played Pegasus, this team from Illinois, and every time we went to regionals, they were like this, oh, we got to play Pegasus.
Hmm.
And they had a guy. I don't know. This was how it was told to us. I have to ask Uncle Scotty, but they had a guy that was wealthy and would buy them like all these uniforms and their shoes and all this stuff, and they always had like 3 or 4 different uniforms they would play. And like the first time that we played them, they were so good. They were so good, and they smoked us, right? I remember me and another person came up to guard this guy. He passed it in between us, ran around us, took the ball, and went out, and I'm like, oh my god. So then we ended up playing them in regionals and ended up beating them. Fast forward to 1990, that's when we won the regionals and we went to nationals, and we won. It was 2 games for nationals, the semi and the final, and of course, we were all pretty arrogant and cocky and stuff, and we got in an elevator with a guy, and he's, oh, you're here for the tournament? We're like, yeah, we're gonna win this thing. We're like, we don't care who we play, what we do, all this stuff, and turns out that was like the director of the USYSA, right?
Yeah.
So like later on we saw him and everything, and,
Like, oh.
and there was a kid that I played against. I'm terrible with names. I can't remember his name, but he was from a Bethesda club team, and he was also in the regional on the regional squad, and I played against him there. He ended up going to being on the national pool team, and during like the pre-ceremonies and stuff for the tournament and stuff, he came over and asked Roy, how many national players you got on your team, being kind of cocky. And Roy looks at him and goes, they're all national players, and so we ended up winning the first game like 4-1, and the next game 5-2 or something like that. We ended up blowing them out, and they had a mom's home.
Hi, Mom.
Doing our interview. You want to make
All
a
good.
cameo? So, and there was a magazine called Soccer America, and they did a write up in it and stuff, and we'd go to the library and we found the magazine and everything, and it wrote in there like, it wasn't a matter of if they were going to win, by how much, and all this stuff. And so, we were all super excited and won that. And then at the same time, I'd forgotten until I looked at the quilt that Nana had made for me. I took a picture and sent it to you. Maybe you can put it in. But I had traveled out to New Mexico with the Michigan Olympic Development Team, and we competed in a national tournament out there. And I was a national runner-up with the Michigan State team. And I found a medal a couple of years back, and I just saw the uniform, so I did that.
Oh.
So anyway, we did that. We won that, and we got rings made and everything, just because we thought we were big shots. And so then that was 1990, so that would have been like the sophomore to junior year.
Okay.
Right, going, and then played high school soccer. Didn't take it probably as seriously as we should have, but it was more of a fun thing to do, and it wasn't like it is now where the elite clubs don't play in high school. So basically, you stopped playing in the fall and you played your club soccer,
Right.
Or your high school soccer rather. So then after that, we kind of get into junior year, and people are talking about what they want to do in college and go. And we had a lot of guys on our team that were really, really good. And almost everybody went to a D1 to play. We had the Mr. Soccer from Michigan on our team, Travis Roy. He was one of the people that I would introduce you to at the Jags. He's got kids that play for the Jags, or did when you were little. Now they're probably grown. Kerry Zavagnin, he was on the U.S. national team. He went on to play for in the MLS and coaches there. He's in Kansas City. A lot of different guys that went to different places, and the teams that were even in our area, that were not the players in our area that were not on our team, that were like on Vardar or one of the other teams. They've all gone on to do different stuff in soccer, and we're on different MLS teams and
Mm.
national teams and stuff like that. And ironically, Brian Mazonoff, who was a year older than me, who was really good friends with one of my best friends growing up, Marcus. He played for De La Salle High School. He went to Indiana, so he was at Indiana when I was at Ohio State. And then he ended up playing for the Columbus Crew, but he's actually the head coach at Ohio State now.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
so it's kind of neat to, how everything comes around full circle and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, so we did that, um, and then we started to think about recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
right? And really, back in those days, it wasn't much of a recruiting. There was a lot of local stuff that went on. Coaches would come and see you, and some guys would be like, "Oh, we'll offer you a scholarship, or we'll do this, or we'll do that." And I kind of wanted to go out of state and do something. So there was
Mm-hmm.
a book. There was no websites or anything then. There was a book that had like the universities, coaches and their addresses and names.
Mm-hmm.
So Papa set me down with a word processor, and I made all these letters to send them out to get interest and do all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sent them out, got a lot of responses, had a lot of correspondence, with different coaches and things like that. Went on some recruiting trips that were fun, and um, ended up going to Ohio State and really liked it there. And we were going to a tournament. The club was going to a tournament over spring break, and the coaches were going to be down there. And so they came to see me. And so they said, we'd like you to come to Ohio State. And so, at that point, I didn't, Michigan didn't have a varsity team,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the Big Ten, there were only like six teams that were, five or six teams that had varsity teams. The rest
Okay.
of them were club.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you'd play in the Big Ten tournament, it was kind of, there were only so many teams there, but you'd still play. And then they'd have a NCAA tournament and stuff like that you'd do. So I ended up selecting Ohio State to go there, and didn't know anybody. Went down there and met some guys that I still talk to today, and hit it off, and um, played played there freshman year. Did well, lettered. Ended up starting, halfway through the year, and everything was going really well. And then sophomore year came, and about halfway through the season, it was in practice. I went up for a header, and the goalie came out, and some other guys were pushing and doing stuff, and they landed on me,
Mm.
and I kind of felt the pop, and so I didn't know what it was at first, and so the next couple of days I could run, but I couldn't stop, because the ACL was gone. And so then I went to the team doctor, and basically they're like, "Hey, your ACL is gone. We need to have surgery." So it was, kind of like, we'll do surgery next week, and I'm like, "What?" And,
Mm-hmm.
and so I did that, had surgery, went through all of the rehab and everything like that, and then and for all of the collegiate sports, they have tryouts,
Mm-hmm.
where for walk-ons can come on and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so the doctors had cleared me to play, just real light play, not to do anything aggressive or whatever. They're like, these tryouts are just kind of light stuff. You can go out and play a little bit. And so I went out and I was playing, and somebody that was trying to walk onto the team to make the team collided with me. Didn't know who I was, didn't know I was
Mm.
on the team, and I just had surgery and stuff like that. And as soon as they did, I felt it pop again.
No.
And so at that point, I was super depressed. I was just like, oh my God, and I remember sitting had to go to the hospital again to do all the MRIs and the different things to see what was going on. And it was like late at night, and I was sitting there with the trainer, and the coach came by, and he said, "Well, I promise next year we'll take a real hard look at you." And I was kind of like, "What? What do you know?" And it really like stung me. You know, I was like, "Take
Yeah.
a hard look. What are you talking about? You're saying I'm done or whatever." And so that kind of set me on a different path where I was like, "Okay, I'm done," and kind of didn't really feel like I wanted to play much, at that point and stuff like that. And then at that summer, my grandpa, so Papa's daddy, died,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up coming home for that summer and having surgery at home,
Okay.
to get that repaired. And then um, I didn't I didn't go back
Mm-hmm.
to the team.
Mm.
I just kind of quit. And so then my friend Marcus, who was playing at Michigan State, they came down to play Ohio State. I think we had the Big Ten tournament there or something like that. And he came out with me. They were there for the tournament, but we went out anyway, like after hours and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
snuck him out. And he's like, "Hey, my roommate is leaving, from Michigan State. His grades or whatever weren't good enough, so he had to leave. He's like, why don't you come transfer to Michigan State?" And I was like, okay,
Yeah. Okay.
So I ended up transferring home, living with him, and that next year we went and sat down with the Michigan State coach because I was like, is there any way that I can play,
Mm.
And the Ohio State was on quarters, or they were on trimesters versus the semesters, and the academics got kind of screwed up and stuff. And I probably could have figured it out, but I just kind of was like, meh, I was done.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of ended like real abruptly,
Yeah.
So it was like I was going and playing, doing all this stuff, and then injury, and then done. And you know, I when I went to Michigan State, I'd play on some indoor teams with some of the guys there, and screw around and
Yeah.
play, but never got into it serious again after that.
Wow. I didn't know that it was in practice, like not an
Both of
actual
them,
game. That
both of them.
I would have killed my teammates.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they didn't do it on purpose, and
Right.
I
But
mean, it was one of those things where I was a really physical player.
yeah.
And so I was in a lot of collisions. I probably caused injuries myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those things where it happened. And that sophomore year really was going well. I'd gone out to Penn State, scored a header goal there,
Mm-hmm.
helped with another goal. I was playing well, and um, you know, and then it happened, and it kind of it was one of those things where you're trying to make your way and do all the things, and then all of a sudden your path is totally changed, because
Mm-hmm.
when you're a freshman in college and you're an athlete, it consumes everything,
Yep.
right? When you're a sophomore, it's still consuming everything. It's not until you're a little bit older that you're like, oh, I got to go out in the real world and do stuff.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even know what I wanted to major in. I didn't know. I was there to play soccer.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. And so when it stopped super abruptly, it was hard. It was
Mm-hmm.
hard to get through, and hard to figure out. But never would have met your mom if I hadn't transferred to Michigan State. So
Very
she can,
true.
we can thank Marcus for that.
Yes. Aw. Okay. So the first time you tore your ACL was like what, the beginning ish of
It
sophomore
was
year?
it was halfway through sophomore year, so that's why, like, I have one letter, because I did sophomore
Okay.
year. I
Yeah.
didn't play enough games. I had already played enough games that I couldn't redshirt,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't have enough to qualify for the letter. And
Yeah.
I was
Oh.
super bummed because at Ohio State at that time, you'd get like your letter for the first year, second year you get a blanket or something, third year you get something, and then you get a ring, a 4-year Letterman's ring.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I was that's like all we were all talking about. Oh, I can't wait to get that 4-year Letterman's ring. And
Yeah.
um, that obviously that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. How was kind of your response after the first tear? Were you like, I'm gonna get back after this, or?
Yeah. So after the first tear, um, I was like, well, that sucks, and I was bummed about the not getting the
Yeah.
4-year Letterman opportunity, but I was still full throttle. I was like, okay, I'm going to do the rehab, I'm going to do all this stuff, and everything was going good. I was ahead of rehab, or ahead at the timeline, doing really well. It was tough, obviously being, as you know, and I think you talked about it with Jazz and stuff. But when your team's traveling and you're not,
Yeah.
it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically you're there by yourself, because all your roommates are always athletes and
Yep.
everything like that. And so basically everything that they got going on, you would go for rehab, but you wouldn't be able to practice,
Mm-hmm.
all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I remember it was the banquet for after sophomore year, and some guy got up to do like a prayer or something before, and he said, "Well, we want to thank God we didn't have any big injuries this year." And he didn't mean it, but I was like, "What?" Again, it was just kind of,
He just forgot.
well, he was like a parent or something. He wasn't like part of the program, so I don't
Oh.
know if he knew or what or who.
Like,
I
sir,
don't
I
really know
actually had
who
like
he
the
was,
biggest injury you could
But
have
I
in
remember my
soccer.
friend Brownie, his uh, his mom after was like, "Oh, I was so mad. I could have just gotten it." I was like, "That's okay."
Aw.
And yeah, so I had um, I was full steam ahead, and then once that happened the second time, and I had that interaction with the coach, and I knew everything that I had gone through, and I was like, would I be able to have the surgery? I probably wouldn't have been able to play my junior year because of the surgery over the
Yeah.
summer, and at that time that was like a 10 to 12 month
Yeah.
recovery. Now it's a little bit faster, but it's still a 8 to 10 month recovery.
Yeah.
So um, so I probably, looking back on it, I probably could have played with just a brace,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, but that would have been tough too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Was that like the only interaction you really had with like the coach? Like, I don't know, just
no, and I don't think he didn't mean it in a negative way. I think
yeah.
he meant to try to say, hey, we're but the way it came across at that time,
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
and so things were, it was kind of in the off season, and basically I just kind of cleaned out my locker,
Yeah.
because
So,
I had the surgery at home, the second
right.
surgery at home, so the rehab and stuff was totally removed from the program.
Okay.
So I had the surgery and the rehab and everything at home for the first couple months, to where I got to where I could walk around and do things.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I came back for that junior year, I had a brace on, but I could still, I didn't really need that daily rehab.
Right.
So
So how was after the second tear and realizing that like, okay, this is
it was
over.
devastating. It was
Yeah.
devastating. It was, like I said, everything that you had kind of dreamt about and thought about when you're younger and you're playing, and then
Mm-hmm.
oh, I get to go to college and play, and oh, I'm at a Division I Big Ten school, and I can see my friends when I go to play Michigan State and Indiana and Wisconsin, because they
Yeah.
all had programs, and I had friends at all those schools. And then all of a sudden it was over.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it was a difficult time. I didn't do well in school during that time and all that stuff. And so I kind of felt like I just needed a fresh start too, and so
Yeah.
that's why when my friend said, come to Michigan State, I thought, well, it'd be cheaper for school, and,
Yeah.
because Ohio State was out of state and all that stuff. And, um, you know, that was another thing. So basically at that time they didn't have a lot of scholarships for the program.
Mm-hmm.
So the upperclassmen were the ones that split the scholarships,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And so I was, who knows, but I was playing well. I was doing those things, and so the expectation was that junior year I would have been able to get money.
Yeah.
And so I knew, like, just all those things kind of piled up, and So I kind of felt like, well, I need a fresh start. It'll be less money, be closer to home,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff.
How was the adjustment once you got to Michigan State after talking with the coach there and being like, okay, no, I am just not doing it
Well,
anymore?
I went to that meeting because Marcus kind of forced me to go to that meeting.
Okay.
My heart really wasn't in it, I don't think.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it'd be awesome because there was another guy, Craig Abraham, that played on that team. Both Marcus and Craig were on the club team that won the national championship with us and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those guys started at different schools. So Marcus was at UAD and Craig was at Adrian, and
Okay.
they transferred to Michigan State, and then I ended up coming. But it was one of those things where I had spent a lot of time with Marcus in high school, driving out to his, it was a totally different side of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And I drive out and hang out with him and his LaSalle friends a lot. So when I transferred to Michigan State, I kind of knew all of his friends because I had run around with them in high school
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of time. And so I just kind of, I didn't really, I didn't take the soccer so serious. Ohio State would come up and play Michigan State, and I'd go to those games and see
Yeah.
friends and stuff like that. But I just kind of, focused on hanging out with friends and just being a college kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. I don't even know where to go to next. That's so heavy.
That's why I worry about all you athletes with
Yes.
Pitt and people saying they're doing different things and not being able to run or running or doing this. And
Yes.
because I know exactly how it feels. You watch sports on TV and you see somebody get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and then most people are like, oh, well, who are we going to have to replace them, or
Yeah.
who. And I think, because I remember so vividly sitting in my apartment with my roommates, it was at night, and the team doctor came over, did the ACL test on me, and said, yep, you did it again,
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember that terrible feeling,
Mm-hmm.
or the first time.
The first time.
The
Okay.
first time, he goes, yeah, you did it. And, so when you see those kids get hurt and stuff, some of them are in dorms, some of them are apartments or whatever, but at the end of the evening, they're by themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe they're on the phone with their parents or something like that, but it's a tough feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lonely feeling.
Yeah. When do you think you finally started to kind of recover mentally from that?
Last year. No.
Bye.
So, once I got to Michigan State and I was hanging out with my friends and making new friends and stuff like that, it Nana always gives your mom credit, but it was around the time when I met your mom.
Aw, that's
That,
so cute.
I kind of
Mom in the other room.
oh, shh. But at that time, because I had transferred and some of my credits didn't transfer and different things, so I had to go another year, right? And
Right.
so, I met your mom at the same time some of my friends were graduating and stuff like that, and I was just kind of like, well, I kind of have to get serious about
Life.
about life. So it was around that time, my beginning of senior year and then into senior year, and then when I met your mom that summer.
Wow. Aw, that's cute.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while, and you're just trying to figure out what you're gonna do. It's and nobody really knows.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I graduated and said I'm going to law school or medical or school or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just went into business and tried to make my way and
Yeah.
keep your nose down, work hard, and those kinds of things. And everybody will be all right. You just gotta work hard and be as flexible as you can.
Yeah, for sure. Switching gears to post having children, or when you did have children, and me.
Okay.
What was it like wanting to put me into soccer, when I wanted to get into soccer?
So I was excited for you to play soccer. Um, and, I thought, well, I could coach.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously you get thrown into it if you got a background in a sport, and you're a parent, you're doing
Yeah.
the recreational stuff, you can do that. And, um, when you first started playing, you were just out there running around having fun. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was, um, I thought, well, she can play soccer, and I always wanted athletic kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you and your sister are very athletic. Um, must take after your mother, and but so I kind of thought, well, we'll start with soccer because I knew that,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like if I tried to teach you how to play t-ball or softball, it'd be a disaster.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we'll start with soccer and see how
Mm-hmm.
that goes,
Nice.
and then you quit.
Yeah, so that's kind of my next question. How sad how sad were you when I did step away from that?
Well, um, I wasn't sad, but I was worried about you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and on it was very it's being a parent, and there are those parents that just yell, 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 and force their kids to do things, and sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
but it was, if you didn't want to play, you didn't want to play. Um, but I was more concerned as to why you didn't want to play, and because you had some interactions with coaches, with there were boys and girls at a practice, and they were making the boys do push-ups or something like that if they did a bad pass or they did something, and you had to do that, and you did not like that. You didn't, and so you immediately you thought they were singling you out, and you're the only one at practice that had to do this, and why are they picking on me? And everybody else is doing push-ups all over the
Right.
place, but it's like, no, it's me. They're making me do it.
Fair.
I just like it on the record as I'm editing this, right? I forgot that I quit soccer twice. So I quit the last time, obviously, when I was a end of sophomore year of high school to fully pursue track. And that's the only time I remember, so that's what I'm asking him about. And I forgot when he answers that I very much quit when I was young for the reasons that he said. It was hard.
Yeah. So, but I just said, well, there's other things that you could do, and other
Mm-hmm.
interests you can have.
Mm-hmm. I do remember you telling me I don't remember what year it was, but while I was playing soccer, you were telling me like I don't want it to start to feel like a job for you. Like you told me that, and like if it starts to not be fun, let me know. And I think I don't even know. Kalia and I talk a little bit about the difference between track and like our previous sports because she did basketball.
Yeah, I remember
Yes,
that video.
yes, and it's just it's very different, I guess, because track is such an individual based sport.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and I still obviously get really anxious with track, but like nothing can compare to I guess towards the end once it was like getting serious with
Right.
soccer because it is such like a team based sport. It's like oh my god, if I mess anything up,
Let the team
it's
down.
everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that became too much. But then also obviously I was getting serious about track, and
Right.
so it was like a good time to switch
So in
over.
the national semifinal game in high school,
Uh huh.
my teammate Chris Hayes,
Uh huh.
who is a great guy, was in the penalty box, fell down because he was tackling somebody or whatever. He fell down, and the ball rolled past him, and he picked it up.
Oh.
Just picked it up, and then realized, oh my god! And penalty shot. We were down 1-0. It was like the first 10 minutes of the game.
Oh God.
We ended up winning that game 4-1.
Oh, that's good.
But you know, those things happen, and if you've got good teammates, they're gonna pick you up and push you along, and that's part of being a good teammate is picking your other teammates up. And in team sports, it's a little bit easier to do, I
Yeah.
think, than in an individual sport because you can help in that way. It's like
Right.
I can't somebody can't hold your hand and run you around the track kind
Right,
of a thing.
right.
So, but it's about being a good teammate and
Mm-hmm.
supporting each other.
Mm-hmm. What differences have you, if you've seen anything, any differences that you've noticed with my time as being a college athlete versus yours?
Well, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to one of my friends, Smiley, and when I got shoes and um, running shoes and playing shoes, and came on a bus and everything, and he came down to Bowling Green to watch. And he's like, "Oh man, you got all kinds of gear,
Mm-hmm.
but it's nothing like what you guys have.
Yeah.
I mean, the gear and the money, the amount of money that you have in college sports right now is so much more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the fact that you guys get like 2-3 dumps a year of swag,
Mm-hmm.
we would get one, and you better clean your shoes and polish them, otherwise they're not going to last.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have so you would end up having like a practice pair and a game pair, and you'd only wear the game pair a couple times a year because after you broke them in, because you didn't want to get them ruined and
Yeah.
everything. So there's that, and there's a lot more and probably because of the money, but the travel. I know that for
Mm-hmm.
obviously for climate reasons, you guys are traveling around a lot more.
Yeah.
And it seems like too, every small school has a program,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. So where, you could have, Division 2 teams and Division 3 teams and stuff like that, but it just seems like there's a lot more money in college athletics than there were back then.
Mm-hmm.
You just
Yeah.
didn't have the amount of scholarships and the amount of money that the revenue sports are bringing in now is astronomical compared to what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That
at
makes
the
sense.
at the heart of it, had practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
You had training tables for your studies of freshman year to make sure you had a grade point. All those things. At the heart of it, what you're doing is the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know you're still training, you're still competing, you're still doing all those things. But I would just say that you got a little bit more, your apartment that you had freshman year,
Yeah. 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 It's very
compared,
nice.
I was in the dorm
Mm-hmm.
that was, I had 4 people in the dorm,
Oh no.
and it was great. Love those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Crystal, who's in Pittsburgh, who's the guy who I went out to dinner with, Mom and I did, when
Yeah.
we came and saw you and stuff like that. And so, like, those types of things are great experiences, but you guys are having experiences in better atmospheres.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the last thing that I really have here is any advice that you would give to people whose athletic careers kind of get cut short of what they thought it was going to be.
So I would say that it's difficult to realize that it's over,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and a lot of my friends went on to coach and to do different things. I didn't, because I had shut that off.
Yeah.
You know, um, and so I think that when an injury happens like that, it's okay um, to take some time for yourself, to figure that out and to grieve a little bit about that loss, because so much of if you're a really strong athlete, so much of your identity is wrapped up in being that athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you go places, the first thing that people ask you is, "How's track? How are
Yeah.
those things?" Or, like, did you win, or did you?
Mm-hmm.
How was that tournament, or all those things? And so that's basically what you build your whole identity to. And so when it's over, and people that, like your sister, right? So she
Mm-hmm.
did gymnastics all through high school, but then stopped, right? She kind of saw it coming, but it's still no less of a impact,
Yeah.
right? Because that's such a big part of her life, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's doing the stuff at MSU and everything, and it's probably great to just kind of get back into it.
Yeah.
I never did,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would say that, after you take the time, you get healthy, you do that stuff, get back into that sport. Remember why you loved it.
Yeah.
Remember what, and there's, and I did to a certain extent, when Mom and I first got married, there was some recreational adult leagues that, you go play a game and then go to the bar and have some beer and
Yeah.
whatever. And I did that for a while. And so that kind of helped. But the time between college and to when we were doing that a couple years after getting married and stuff, that was the difficult time.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. Fine, even if it's, obviously not as high intensity, getting back into it some way. Just
Right. And like so many people, the majority of people, they play in high school and then that's it.
yeah.
Right. And in a way, everybody's kind of dealing with it because you have those teammates and the camaraderie and all that stuff, and you lose that right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody that's an athlete deals with it to some extent. But if you go in the higher level you get, and the more it becomes important, essential, and all those types of things, look at Coach Mike, same type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Olympic caliber sprinter, blow your Achilles, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And back then there was, when you did your Achilles, that was it. There was nothing you could do.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. And you guys joked around last night about finding hobbies and stuff like that, but you have to find something else that you get passionate about and that you like to do and you want to do. And the competition, the desire for competition never goes away. It's why your mom won't play Monopoly with me or cards or anything, because you want to win. You want to win, and anybody that is at a level that plays in college, most of the time they won.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't get there because you lost every race or that you were on a losing team, right? So, you're used to winning, and you remember doing anything you could to win, and so that doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to share your other fun outlets that you have now? Go through the list.
You want me to go through all my hobbies I've had since?
Yes. Or just your major ones now.
The major ones now is I enjoy archery and shotgunning sports. Mm-hmm. I like watches.
The watches.
The YouTube can be a terrible, getting into whether I'm got my bird feeder outside and I'm checking out the birds, or I'm trying to grow my tomatoes outside and coming up with new ways to grow tomatoes. But I just got a lot of things I like. Not as much as I would hope, but your mom only lets me have so many at a time.
At once, right. Yes. And this is where I get it from, everyone. Well, Dad, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I learned a lot.
I hope, yeah. Well, I'm glad you did, and I hope that I hope this episode gets more likes than the one with Steph. So it's a little competition. We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm thinking it should. Because
right.
But we'll see.
We'll see. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure that you're subscribed over on YouTube if this is where you are watching, or on Spotify. Follow me on Instagram at Mackenzie Sullivan, and also at Athlete to Athlete Podcast on Instagram. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Love you.
Bye. Love you.